Hello, I'm Joe McCarthy, Senior Technical Marketing Engineer for Steel Central. This is a how-to video that highlights how the Steel Central solution triages a UC, network, and infrastructure issue using multiple products within the Steel Central suite, but to the customer, it looks like I'm using just one tool. In this use case, a NOC operator's function is to monitor the unified communications for their company. The operator has the view open to Portal, clicks on the tile labeled UC Overview, and this is where the demo begins. To start the demo, we'll use Portal 1. On this screen, scroll down to underneath Default Dashboards. Make sure you select Show More, and then you'll see the tile labeled UC Overview. Let's go in there. In this view, the operator notices that under Call Experience by Group and Media Quality are showing some serious issues, a lot of red. So to investigate this further, let's right mouse button on top of one of the red columns, go to Launch, Troubleshoot Media. If you haven't already, you need to log into UCExpert prior to starting this demo, or this will show up. So here I use my username, password, and make sure you have multi-vendor selected. So make sure you do this before the demo starts and you don't have to have this pop up on you. So I'll sign in. Within this view, we can start filtering to find out where the issues are happening. So I'm going to go to Rating, select it. So this Fair, select it again, and now I'll show all the poor ratings for the media quality. And I can see the different types of users. And I happen to notice that one of them is named Walter White. He happens to be the CIO of the company. So the NOC operator wants to focus on making sure Walter White's calls are getting through. So to understand that, we can actually filter on Walter White. And I'll hit search, and now we'll be looking at all of Walter's calls. So here's the poor one. We can focus on this. So I'm going to highlight this call, and from here I can go to Path Analysis to dive deeper into this actual media stream. Now this view shows the actual media path that the packets took from the beginning of the call, Walter White, all the way to the end, the endpoint, Glenn Ray. We can see the call started fine, but it ended badly. So let's trace this call out. So it goes through a few routers and switches, and you notice that it leaves router TF3PE1, the DSCP marking is EF, expedite forward, the way it should be. But when it leaves router R01-SW, that DSCP marking changed from EF to default. So if we select EF, we can see what's going on. Jitter and packet loss are minimal, 4% and 1% for packet loss. Nothing bad there. If we select default, we see that it's a major issue because we now know that the DSCP marking did change. When we select it, jitter and packet loss still are minimal, so there's no issue happening just yet. We can actually even select the router and look at how the CPU, memory, and response time metrics are looking, and still things are looking fine. So we haven't found the issue just yet. So as we continue on troubleshooting, now we notice that router TF3P4 is red. So if we select this device, now we see that CPU utilization is in the high 90s, memory is very high, and response time has gone way up. So certainly something is going on here. So we can see the default goes in to ETH02, which everything looks normal here, but Ethernet 01, this interface, if we select this interface, now we can see some issues. The COS utilization for that class has gone saturated to 100%, so now we know something is definitely wrong. If we select the DSCP marking on the way out of this interface, look at that. Jitter and packet loss have gone through the roof. 30% on jitter and over 40% for packet loss. So now we've identified where the issue has happened or where the call has gone bad. Now when packet loss starts, it gets carried through all the way to the end of the call, so it never gets fixed. So by the time it gets to Glenn Ray, the packet loss is still continuing, and that's why the call of this media call was bad. So let's review. Media traffic, which is a high bandwidth type application, requires an EF tag, expedite forward, which is fine going into router R01-SW. But when it leaves this router, that tag is changed to default. Now the default queue is not set up to handle high bandwidth traffic. It's for other low level type communications. So when it enters router TF3, that tag is no longer EF, and it gets pushed to interface Ethernet 01, which is defined for default type traffic. This is where packet loss starts happening. So the high bandwidth saturates this low level link 100%. Now when I click on the default queue on the outbound side, we can see there's the packet loss. Packet loss prior to entering this router is only at 1%, but when it leaves, it bumps up to 40% because that interface simply cannot handle the high bandwidth traffic. What happens next is this router, because packet loss is happening at a 40% click, CPU and memory get pegged. There was a snowball effect due to the fact that the DSCP marking changed on router R01SW from EF to default. So this is where the actual problem or configuration change happened. So now the NOC operator knows who to call, set up this router to make sure that the DSCP tagging is correct, and from now on, all the calls will be working fine, especially for the CIO. By proactively monitoring the UC traffic with Riverbed Steel Central, a NOC operator was able to identify there was an ongoing call quality issue for the media type streams, isolate the issue down to a specific call, determine the cause of the problem was a configuration issue with router R01-SW by changing the DSCP tag from EF to default. This in turn caused the high bandwidth traffic to go through interface 01 on router TF3-P4, which was not configured to handle that high bandwidth traffic. This caused the interface to drop over 40% of its packets, which overloaded the router's CPU and memory, ultimately causing poor call quality for anyone using this path. So with Riverbed Steel Central continuously monitoring all applications, networks, infrastructure devices, and end-user experience metrics, we have the unique ability to quickly isolate and triage any and all issues with just a few clicks across all verticals and lines of business. Thanks for watching, and good selling.